You are now listening to the first 11 minutes of Chapter 1 of Naughty Birdie, written by Apelia. Available exclusively on Scriptoriumquest.com. Birdie always lived in the streets as far as he could remember. His father was his only parent, and he never remembered his mother. Despite the challenges of street life, Birdie found moments of joy and comfort in the small things, like his brown blanket. As Birdie peered out from the wooden box, he saw raindrops sliding down the nearby lamppost, creating a symphony of gentle patter. The scent of wet earth filled the air, mixing with the distant aroma of freshly baked bread from a nearby bakery. Birdie hopped out of the box and gingerly stepped onto the wet pavement. He shook off the remnants of sleep and stretched his body, arching his back and extending his paws. The raindrops lightly brushed against his white fur, causing it to glisten like diamonds in the morning light. With an air of determination, Birdie set off down the alley. His keen senses guided him as he navigated the maze-like streets, filled with the bustle of city life. His yellow-patched fur stood out among the gray concrete and the sea of hurried feet. Birdie was determined to make the most of this beautiful day. He knew that the city was full of hidden treasures, even for a street cat like him. Birdie had a talent for finding small tidbits of food, often left behind by careless humans. It was a constant game of survival, but Birdie faced it with resilience and a hint of optimism. As Birdie trotted along, he encountered various characters along the way. The city was a tapestry of stories, and Birdie reveled in each encounter, forging connections amidst the chaos. Today, Birdie had a special mission in mind. He had heard rumors of a nearby park where birds chirped melodies that could uplift the soul. With his heart filled with curiosity, Birdie decided to seek out this haven of melodies, hoping to experience a piece of the world beyond the concrete walls. As he weaved through the city's labyrinthine streets, Birdie kept his eyes and ears open, following the distant melodies that grew louder with each step. Finally, he arrived at the entrance of the park, greeted by a burst of vibrant colors and the symphony of bird songs that filled the air. Birdie found a cozy spot under a willow tree, its branches providing a natural canopy of tranquility. He closed his eyes and let the melodies wash over him, transporting him to a world of beauty and serenity. For a brief moment, Birdie forgot about the hardships of his street life and found solace in the harmonies that seemed to whisper ancient secrets. As the morning unfolded, Birdie spent an hour in the park, basking in the warm sunlight and relishing the joys of the present. He made new friends among the birds and even found a kind-hearted human who offered him a small dish of food. It was a morning of simple pleasures, a reminder that even in the toughest of circumstances, there was always beauty to be found. Birdie knew it was time to return to his familiar alley for a lovely breakfast prepared by his favorite human. He bid farewell to his feathered companions, their melodies still echoing in his heart. As he retraced his steps through the city's bustling streets, Birdie couldn't help but carry a newfound sense of hope. No matter what tomorrow would bring, Birdie would face it with the same resilience and optimism that had carried him this far. Birdie always lived in the streets as far as he could remember. His father was his only parent, and he never stopped missing his presence. However, one day he asked about his mother's absence. "She died shortly after bringing you into this world," Birdie's father had explained when he was just a tiny kitten. "Some kids threw rocks at her, and she was so injured that she barely made it when I found her. A few minutes later, she gave birth to you and your siblings." Birdie's eyes widened as he asked, "Siblings?" "Yes," his father replied with a mix of sadness and pride. "There were 6 of you in total, all more beautiful than the other. But I barely had time to take your mother's body near a bush to let her rest when I heard voices. I rushed to see what the noise was about and saw a tall man taking your siblings away." Birdie's father swallowed hard, his eyes filled with the pain of that memory. Sensing his father's sorrow, Birdie walked smoothly near him and licked his front paw, as if to offer comfort in return. I just couldn't help," his father continued, his voice tinged with regret. "He was so big and fast. All I could do was follow him, but then you appeared, crawling with your eyes closed and helpless. I knew that if I followed the man, I would lose you forever. So I stayed. I had to stay for you because you needed me. Birdie buried his face in his father's chest, desperately clinging to the warmth and love that radiated from him. The bond between them was unbreakable, and the loss of their family was a wound that would forever ache in Birdie's heart. But then, 2 weeks after that heart-wrenching conversation, Birdie's father vanished. He had gone to fetch a bit of fish from the nearest market, just like he always did in the morning, but this time he never returned. Birdie waited and waited, refusing to leave the cardboard box unless absolutely necessary. He held on to the belief that his father wouldn't abandon him unless something terrible had happened. Days turned into weeks, and weeks into months, until 2 years had passed since his father's disappearance. Birdie had learned to survive on his own, navigating the harsh streets with resilience. But deep within him, there was a longing for his father's presence, a void that could never be filled. Every night, as Birdie settled into his makeshift sleeping spot, he would look up at the starry sky and imagine his father watching over him from somewhere beyond. He would whisper words of love and longing, hoping that somehow his father could hear him. In the quiet moments of solitude, Birdie would recall the warmth of his father's embrace, the gentle sound of his voice, and the feeling of safety that only a parent could provide. He missed the shared meals, the comforting purrs, and the knowledge that he was never alone. But amidst the ache of loss, Birdie carried his father's legacy within him. He had learned resilience, adaptability, and the strength to navigate the world with a brave heart. And as he roamed the streets, he sought to honor his father's memory by spreading love and kindness wherever he went. As Birdie made his way through the bustling city streets, his keen senses guided him towards Frank's coffee shop. Navigating the urban landscape had become a skill he honed over the years, carefully maneuvering through the crowds and avoiding the hazards that lurked around every corner. The white cat moved with a grace and agility that belied his street-hardened exterior. He knew how to blend into the background, staying close to the walls and shadows, making himself almost invisible to the hurried passers-by. People hurried past him, lost in their own thoughts and concerns, oblivious to the small feline treading silently in their midst. Birdie's journey was not without its challenges. Rain poured down from the darkened sky, drenching the streets and making them treacherous to traverse. With each step, water, free, cascaded off his fur, his small body shivering in the cold. Yet he pressed on, determined to reach his destination. Amidst the chaos of the city, a little girl's excited voice pierced through the noise. "Look at the cat, Mom," she exclaimed. Birdie's heart quickened, memories of past encounters with children flooding his mind. Without hesitation, he bolted forward, his nimble legs carrying him swiftly away from potential danger. After several minutes of running, Birdie found himself in a neighborhood adorned with tall brick townhouses, their grandeur evident in their architecture. The residents here were consumed by their own lives, rarely sparing a glance downward to notice the small creature passing through their midst. It was a welcome respite for Birdie, allowing him to explore freely without fear of being chased away or harmed. Turning into an alley illuminated by the soft glow of fairy lights, Birdie felt a sense of familiarity. The houses here, though not as opulent as those on the main street, had a humble charm of their own. Above them, metal fire escapes created intricate patterns against the night sky. Birdie's ears perked up as he heard faint strains of music and laughter drifting from the stairs. This was a place he loved, where the residents would often gather, creating a warm and inviting atmosphere. Every morning, Birdie would make his way with a joyous strut towards the last brick house in the row. Its small brown wooden door stood open, inviting him in. As he approached, he stretched out his paw, gently tapping it against the first step of the metal staircase, emitting a soft meow. It was his signal to Frank, a silent announcement that he had arrived. Birdie longed for the familiar sight of Frank's warm smile, his soothing voice, and the aroma of freshly brewed coffee that enveloped the air. For it was at Frank's coffee shop that Birdie found solace, nourishment, and a connection that filled the void left by his missing father. It all started a year ago on a rainy day, with thunder echoing loudly through the streets. The pouring rain soaked Birdie as cars raced by, splashing water onto the already drenched sidewalks. Seeking shelter, the frightened cat took cover on the steps of a house, trembling uncontrollably. Suddenly, a door swung open behind him, and a man's voice exclaimed in surprise, "Oh, oh no." Caught off guard, Birdie couldn't move in time, and the man tumbled down the stairs, landing on the concrete. Weak and terrified, Birdie sought refuge near a pile of trash, hoping to remain hidden. "Come on," the man shouted, wiping dirt off his jeans and scanning the area. His gaze fell upon Birdie, whose white fur stood out amidst the black trash bags. "You did this," the man accused, pointing at his knees. The cat tried to make himself as small as possible, but the tall man approached him. Birdie's instinct urged him to run, but fear paralyzed him, causing his body to tremble. "Paul!" A voice called from inside the brick house. The tall man, Paul, halted in his tracks, turning his head towards the voice. "What happened to your pants?" inquired a man with long brown hair. "I fell," Paul replied. "You fell while throwing out the trash?" the long-haired man asked incredulously. "I didn't do it on purpose." "The cat made me," Paul began, but his words were cut off as a man with broad shoulders, dressed in a black and white turtleneck and a light brown blazer, appeared at the door. "What is going on here?" the newcomer questioned.